Hey guys, tonight we slip into the steamy jungles of ancient Mexico, where the air hums with chants and the scent of copal incense stings your nose. You're standing in the heart of the Aztec world, 1325, and the gods are watching, their eyes, unblinking, carved in stone, demand something you probably won't survive. Your beating heart, offered to keep the sun rising. Yeah, it's intense, but that's the deal here. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your city and local time. I'm curious where you're chilling tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're not just anywhere. You're in the presence of Huitzilopochtli, the Aztec sun god, who's kind of a big deal. Picture a warrior decked in hummingbird feathers, his face painted blue, clutching a serpent staff that spits fire. He's the guy who keeps the world from plunging into eternal darkness. But there's a catch. He needs blood, lots of it. The Aztecs believed that without human sacrifices, Huitzilopochtli would weaken, the sun would stall, and poof, game over for reality. This isn't some dusty myth. It's the backbone of their entire culture. Every temple, every war, every heartbeat in this empire pulses for him. Now, let's get quirky. There's this wild tidbit. Priests sometimes wore the flayed skin of victims to channel Huitzilopochtli's power. Yeah, you heard that right. Skin suits. They dance in them for days, believing it brought them closer to the divine. Creepy? Sure. But to the Aztecs, it was as normal as your morning coffee run. Historians still argue whether these rituals were purely religious or a power flex to keep neighboring tribes in line. Did the Aztecs really think the cosmos would collapse? Or was it partly propaganda to justify their dominance? No one's cracked that puzzle yet. You're starting to feel the weight of this place. The air's thick, not just with heat, but with purpose. Every step you take, you're treading on sacred ground. The Aztecs didn't mess around. Sacrifices weren't random. They were planned, precise, like a cosmic PowerPoint presentation to the gods. Huitzilopochtli's favorite offering? Human hearts, still warm, ripped from chests with obsidian blades. Why? Blood was life, the ultimate gift to keep the universe's engine running. You're wondering how a whole society bought into this. Well, stick around, because it's not just about one god. It's about a city, a people, and a worldview that's equal parts beautiful and terrifying. Let's lighten the mood for a sec. Imagine Huitzilopochtli scrolling through his divine inbox, muttering, "Another day, another heart." These mortals need to chill. But seriously, the Aztecs were obsessed with time. Calendars ruled their lives. Every 52 years, they held a new fire ceremony, sacrificing someone to reset the cosmic clock. Miss it, and the stars might crash. Talk about pressure. You're probably glad your biggest worry is forgetting to charge your phone. As you stand here, the distant thump of drums echoes. It's not just noise, it's a signal. Somewhere, a priest is sharpening his blade, and a crowd is gathering. You're about to see what happens when devotion meets destiny. The sun's still high, but its hunger is endless. Ready to step closer? You're weaving through Tenochtitlan, the Aztec capital, where canals shimmer like veins and the city pulses with life. Floating gardens bob on Lake Texcoco, their edges fringed with maize and chili peppers. Merchants hawk turquoise beads, jaguar pelts, and cacao beans, currency you could literally drink. Above it all, temples spike the sky, their stone steps stained dark. You're in a metropolis of 200,000, a place that makes your hometown look like a sleepy suburb. The air buzzes with chatter, but there's an undercurrent of dread. Sacrifices aren't just rituals here, they're the city's heartbeat. Tenochtitlan was built on a swampy island because Huitzilopochtli sent a sign, an eagle devouring a snake atop a cactus. That's mainstream history, straight from Aztec codices. You can almost see the priests nodding sagely, like, yup, this is the spot. But here's a quirky twist. Some Aztecs believe the city's canals were dug to mimic the mythical Aztlan, their lost homeland. Urban planning with a side of nostalgia. Wild, right? Historians still argue whether Tenochtitlan's layout was purely practical or a sacred map of the cosmos. Did they align temples with stars, or just build where the ground didn't sink? You dodge a kid chasing a rubber ball. Yep, they invented basketball's ancestor, but losers sometimes ended up on the altar. Tough game. The market's chaos wraps around you. Women barter for Quetzal feathers. Men haul obsidian for blades. Everyone knows the temple's purpose. Sacrifices aren't hidden. They're public, like a grim Super Bowl. You glance at the Templo Mayor, its twin shrines to Huitzilopochtli and Tlaloc glaring down. Every day, someone climbs those steps and doesn't come back. It's not random. Warriors, captives, even kids are chosen to keep the gods fed. Let's pause for a chuckle. Imagine an Aztec urban planner muttering, "Another temple? Where's the parking lot gonna go?" But seriously, Tenochtitlan's engineering was nuts. Aqueducts, dikes, causeways. They built a Venice in a swamp, all while juggling rituals that'd make your HOA faint. You're starting to get why this city ran on blood. It wasn't just about Huitzilopochtli. It was about order. Sacrifices kept the gods happy, the people united, and enemies terrified. You're wondering who these victims were. Spoiler, it's complicated. You pass a noble's house, its walls painted with serpents. Inside, a family prays, maybe hoping their son's next battle earns him glory or a quick death. Across the canal, a farmer unloads maize, his taxes feeding the priests who'll spill blood tomorrow. Everyone's connected to the altars. You feel the city's rhythm now, like a drum you can't unhear. The sun's dipping, painting the pyramids gold, but the real show starts at dawn. You're not sure you want to see it, but your feet keep moving toward the temple district. The air's heavier now, and it's not just the humidity. You're up before dawn in Tenochtitlan. The air cool and sharp with the tang of burning resin. Drums throb like a pulse, pulling you toward the Templo Mayor. Torches flicker, casting shadows of priests in feathered headdresses, their faces smeared with black paint. They're preparing for today's sacrifice, and you're close enough to hear their chants, low, guttural, like the earth itself is growling. A line of victims, wrists bound, shuffles up the pyramid steps. You're not sure whether to look away or stare, but the crowd's electric hum keeps you rooted. Mainstream history tells us these rituals followed a strict calendar, tied to festivals like Toxcatl, when thousands gathered to honor Huitzilopochtli. The priests weren't winging it. Every move was choreographed, from the victim's first step to the final cut. Here's the quirky bit. Some victims got a pre-ritual spa day, bathed, fed, dressed in fine cloth, like a twisted version of a reality show makeover. Historians still argue whether this was to honor the gods or to psych up the crowd. Did the pampering make the sacrifice feel more sacred? Or was it just theater to keep the masses hooked? You watch a priest lift an obsidian blade, its edge glinting like a shard of night. The victim, a young warrior, maybe a captive from a rival city, stands tall, eyes wide, but steady. The crowd holds its breath. You're struck by the silence between drum beats, heavy with meaning. The priests believe this man's heart will feed Huitzilopochtli, ensuring the sun rises. You're starting to get the stakes. No sacrifice, no tomorrow. It's a cosmic bargain, and nobody's taking chances. Let's lighten the mood. Imagine a priest tripping on his cloak, mid-chant, muttering, "Great, now the sun's gonna crash." But for real, these guys were pros. Some trained for years, memorizing hymns and star charts. You're wondering how they stayed so calm. Easy. They believed. To them, this wasn't murder. It was salvation. You notice the victims adorned with flowers, his chest painted with sacred symbols. He's not just a man anymore. He's a gift, a bridge to the divine. The drums pick up faster now. You're close enough to smell the copal smoke curling from braziers, its sweetness clashing with the metallic tang in the air. The crowd sways, some praying, others just watching. Kids cling to their parents, wide-eyed. You realize this isn't a one-off. It's routine, like Sunday brunch, except with way higher stakes. You're starting to feel the rhythm of this place, the way sacrifice weaves into every moment. The sun's peeking over the horizon, and you're wondering what happens when that blade falls. You'll find out soon enough. You're still near the Templo Mayor, the dawn light painting its stones a faint pink. The drums haven't stopped, and neither has the ritual. You're trying to wrap your head around why the Aztecs are so obsessed with hearts and blood. It's not just gore for shock value. There's a cosmic logic here, and you're about to unravel it. The air's thick with incense, and the crowd's murmurs feel like a current pulling you deeper into this world. Mainstream history says the Aztecs saw blood as the ultimate life force, a sacred fuel for the gods. Their cosmology held that the universe ran on a delicate balance. Creation demanded destruction. Huitzilopochtli, born from his mother's sacrifice, needed constant offerings to keep fighting chaos. Hearts, still beating, were the premium currency, and blood was the oil that kept the cosmic engine humming. Here's a quirky tidbit. Priests sometimes drank the blood, believing it carried divine essence. Yeah, like a sacred energy drink. Gross, but to them, it was holy. Historians still argue whether this was purely spiritual or a way to terrorize enemies. Did the Aztecs think blood literally powered the sun, or was it also a psychological weapon? You're standing close enough to see the altar slick with offerings. The priest's blade flashes, and you wince, but you can't look away. The heart's lifted high, offered to the sky like a pulsing ruby. The crowd roars, not in horror, but in relief. Another day secured. You're starting to get it. The Aztecs believed the fifth sun, their era, was doomed unless they paid this price. Every sacrifice was a contract renewal with the gods. You're wondering how they justified the body count. Simple. They thought the alternative was annihilation. Let's crack a joke. Imagine Huitzilopochtli texting the priests, "Yo, running low on hearts, double shift today." But seriously, their calendar was brutal. Some months saw thousands sacrificed, especially during droughts or wars. You're picturing a priest with a cosmic to-do list. Feed sun, save world, grab lunch. The logic was airtight to them. You notice the crowd's not just watching, they're participating, praying, some even weeping. This isn't a spectator sport. It's a collective mission. You're starting to feel the weight of their worldview. The sun's climbing, but it's not just light. It's a god, hungry and relentless. You glance at the victim's body, now rolled down the steps, caught by attendants below. Nothing's wasted. Even the remains are sacred. You're wondering why some victims seemed calm, almost willing. That's next. But for now, you're stuck on the why. Blood and hearts, the currency of existence, binding this city to the stars. You're still in Tenochtitlan, the morning sun now warming the stone beneath your feet. The crowd around the Templo Mayor hasn't thinned. If anything, it's grown. Their faces a mix of awe and tension. You're staring at the latest victim being led up the pyramid. A young man, maybe a warrior, his expression unreadable. Was he chosen, or did he choose this? The question gnaws at you. Were these sacrifices willing devotees or forced captives? The answer's not as clear as you'd like, and you're about to dive into the murky truth. Mainstream history confirms the Aztecs sacrificed both captives and volunteers, with war prisoners making up the bulk. Battles, called flowery wars, were fought specifically to capture enemies for the altar. But here's the quirky bit. Some Aztecs, especially nobles, offered themselves, believing it guaranteed a VIP pass to the afterlife, chilling with Huitzilopochtli in eternal sunlight. Talk about commitment. Historians still argue whether most victims went willingly or were coerced. Did fear of social shame push volunteers, or was it pure faith? You watch the young man ascend, his wrists loosely bound, flowers tucked into his hair. He's not fighting. Either he's resigned, or he believes this is his destiny. You're close enough to see his chest rise and fall, steady despite the obsidian blade waiting above. The Aztecs trained some captives for months, treating them like gods before the end. Weird flex, right? You're imagining being fed chocolate and praised, only to realize it's your last meal. Yet some sources say these god impersonators embrace their role, dancing and singing to the end. Let's lighten the mood. Picture a captive whispering, "Do I at least get a commemorative plaque?" But seriously, the Aztecs' afterlife beliefs were wild. Warriors and sacrifices went to a paradise, while regular folks slogged through the underworld. You're starting to see why volunteering might have appealed. The crowd's chanting now, urging the ritual on. You notice a woman, maybe his mother, clutching a shawl, her eyes wet but proud. Was her son a hero or a victim? You're not sure, and neither are the scholars. You're caught in the ritual's rhythm, the drums syncing with your pulse. The priest raises his blade, and you hold your breath. Willing or not, this man's heart will feed the sun. You're wondering how this scene played out thousands of times, binding a whole society to its gods. The answer's in the city itself. Every warrior, every priest, every farmer had a stake in this bloody pact. You're atop the Templo Mayor now, the heart of Tenochtitlan, sprawling below like a living map. Canals glinting, markets buzzing, temples piercing the sky. The platforms crowded, priests chanting, their voices weaving through the smoke of burning copal. You're inches from the altar, its stone worn smooth, stained dark. A sacrifice is unfolding, and you're so close you can feel the crowd's collective pulse. The victim, a captive adorned with feathers, lies on the slab, chest bared. The obsidian blade hovers, and you're about to witness the Aztecs' most sacred act in its rawest form. Mainstream history notes the Templo Mayor was the epicenter of Aztec religion, hosting thousands of sacrifices annually, especially during major festivals like Quetzalcoatl. Its twin shrines to Huitzilopochtli and Tlaloc dominated the city's skyline, a constant reminder of divine demands. Here's a quirky tidbit. Archaeologists found a rack of skulls, Tzompantli, near the temple, displaying thousands of victims' heads like a grim trophy case. Historians still argue whether this was purely devotional or a psychological tactic to intimidate rivals. Was the temple a sacred stage or a propaganda machine? You're frozen as the priest's blade descends, swift and precise. The crowd gasps, then cheers, as the heart is raised, steaming in the morning air. You're hit by the smell, metallic, mingled with incense. The bodies roll down the steps, thudding out of sight, while the heart's placed in a stone bowl for Huitzilopochtli. You're trying to process the speed, the ceremony, the sheer normalcy of it. The crowd's not horrified. They're energized, believing they've just saved the world. You're wondering how faith can twist death into triumph. Let's ease the tension. Imagine a priest fumbling the blade, muttering, "Oops, let's not tell the sun about this." But seriously, the logistics were insane. Priests coordinated sacrifices like stage directors, ensuring every chant, cut, and offering was flawless. You notice the crowd's diversity. Nobles in Quetzal cloaks, farmers in simple tunics, all united by this moment. The temple's not just a building, it's the city's heartbeat, tying every soul to the gods. You're starting to feel the weight of this place, its stone soaked in centuries of blood. The drums keep pounding, signaling another victim's approach. You're wondering about the other gods, the ones sharing this temple's spotlight. Tlaloc's shrine looms nearby, and his rituals are just as chilling. For now, you're stuck here. The altar's pull inescapable. The city below alive with the echo of sacrifice. You're still on the Templo Mayor summit. The altar's dark stains underfoot, but your gaze shifts to the second shrine, dedicated to Tlaloc. the rain god. His stone face, goggle-eyed, fanged, glares through curls of incense. The crowd's energy hasn't faded. Another ritual's brewing, and it's not for Huitzilopochtli. You're about to meet the other gods who demanded blood, each with their own gruesome appetites. The air's damp now, clouds rolling in, as if Tlaloc himself is watching. You're wondering how many deities got a piece of this bloody pie. Mainstream history tells us Tlaloc was huge, second only to Huitzilopochtli, tied to rain, fertility, and agriculture. His sacrifices peaked during the dry season, often involving children, whose tears were thought to summon storms. Chilling, but true. Here's a quirky twist. Some offerings to Tlaloc included jade beads and seashells tossed into sacred wells to mimic water's flow. Priests basically bedazzled their prayers. Historians still argue whether these rituals were driven by desperation for rain or a broader need to control nature. Did the Aztecs fear Tlaloc's wrath more than drought itself? You watch priests prepare a new victim, a boy, maybe 7, draped in blue cloth, his small frame trembling. The crowd's quieter now, reverent, as flutes wail like wind. You're struck by the contrast. Huitzilopochtli got warriors' hearts, but Tlaloc craved innocence. The boys led to a smaller altar, and you brace yourself. The blades quick, the offering lifted to the sky. You hear a woman sob, but the crowd murmurs prayers, believing rain will follow. You're trying to grasp a world where a child's death means crops will grow. Let's lighten the mood. Picture Tlaloc texting. More tears, less drama. Psst. But for real, his rituals were intense. Some kids were drowned in cenotes, sacred sinkholes, to reach him directly. You're starting to see the Aztecs' pantheon as a cosmic HR department, each god with a specific quota of blood. Saipe Totec, the flayed god, got his own sacrifices, with priests wearing victim skins like macabre costumes. You're glad Halloween's less extreme. You're feeling the temple's dual pulse now. Sun and rain, war and harvest, all fed by blood. The boy's body is carried away, his sacrifice as vital as the warrior's before. You're wondering how this system held a whole society together, from kings to farmers. The clouds overhead thicken, and you half expect rain. For now, you're stuck in the god's shadow, their hunger endless. You're descending the Templo Mayor's steps, the city of Tenochtitlan sprawling below, its canals and rooftops glowing under a midday sun. The rituals haven't stopped. Drums still echo, and the scent of copal lingers like a ghost. You're starting to see how sacrifice isn't just a temple event. It's the glue binding every corner of Aztec society. From warriors to farmers, everyone's got skin in this bloody game. You're weaving through the crowd now, their faces alive with purpose, and you're about to learn how this gruesome system kept a civilization ticking. Mainstream history shows sacrifice was central to Aztec social order, reinforcing hierarchy and unity. Warriors fought to capture victims, priests performed the rituals, and commoners supplied food and taxes to sustain the cycle. It was a blood-soaked team effort. Here's a quirky fact. Some farmers offered their own blood in minor rituals, pricking their ears with magui spines to pay the gods directly. DIY devotion, Aztec style. Historians still argue whether this system was a genuine collective faith or a tool to keep the masses in line. Did the average Aztec buy into the cosmic stakes, or was fear of rebellion the real motivator? You pass a warrior, his jaguar skin cloak marking him as elite. He's fresh from a flowery war, maybe dragging a captive who'll meet the altar soon. His pride's palpable. He's not just a soldier. He's a cosmic hero, feeding Huitzilopochtli. Nearby, a farmer unloads maize at the market, his taxes funding the priest's blades. You're struck by the symmetry. Every role, from king to peasant, orbits the temple. Even kids learn early, playing games mimicking sacrifice, like it's as normal as tag. You're wondering how a society normalizes this. Faith, fear, and habit all mixed together. Let's crack a joke. Imagine an Aztec kid whining, "Do I have to go to sacrifice practice?" But seriously, the Aztecs' education system drilled devotion into everyone. Nobles studied star charts. Commoners learned chants. You're picturing a priest as a cosmic middle manager, balancing budgets of blood and maize. The system worked because everyone believed, or at least acted like they did. You notice a woman weaving cloth, her patterns mimicking temple motifs. Even her work ties back to the gods. You're starting to feel the city's rhythm, like a machine oiled with blood. The warrior, the farmer, the weaver, they're all cogs, turning for the same divine engine. You're wondering what happens when outsiders, like the Spanish, crash this well-oiled system. Spoiler, it's not pretty. For now, you're caught in Tenochtitlan's pulse, the next sacrifice, just a drumbeat away. You're back in Tenochtitlan's bustling heart. The Templo Mayor's shadow stretching long as the sun dips. The air's thick with the hum of daily life. Merchants bartering, kids darting through alleys, but the distant thump of drums reminds you the altars are never quiet. Suddenly, you spot something new. Pale men in metal armor, their horses clopping on the causeways. It's 1519, and Hernán Cortés and his Spanish crew have just rolled into town. They're gawking at the temples, their faces twisting at the blood-slicked stones. You're about to see how the Aztecs' bloody rituals clash with these outsiders, sparking a violent unraveling. Mainstream history records that the Spanish were horrified by Aztec sacrifices, viewing them as demonic compared to their Catholic beliefs. Cortés, welcomed initially by Moctezuma, saw the Templo Mayor's skull racks and wrote of heathen atrocities. Here's a quirky tidbit. One Spanish soldier claimed the priest's incense smelled like hell's own perfume, a mix of copal and blood that haunted his nightmares. Historians still argue whether the Spanish exaggerated the scale of sacrifices to justify conquest. Did they truly see thousands killed daily? Or was it propaganda to paint the Aztecs as savages? You're close enough to hear a Spaniard mutter to his comrade, his cross necklace glinting as he grips his sword. The Aztecs, proud and curious, offer gifts, feathers, gold, even a sacrificial victim to honor their guests. You wince as Cortés recoils, his men whispering of Satan. The tension's palpable. You can feel the cultural chasm widening. Moctezuma, regal in his Quetzal cloak, seems oblivious, but you're not so sure. The Spanish see the altars as proof of barbarism. The Aztecs see them as divine necessity. You're wondering how this misunderstanding will explode. Let's lighten the mood. Imagine Cortés sniffing the incense and sneezing, "Nope, not signing up for this religion." But seriously, the Spanish brought smallpox, which killed more Aztecs than swords ever could. You're picturing a priest, confused, offering Tlaloc a heart to stop the disease, not knowing its germs, not God's, at work. The clash isn't just cultural, it's catastrophic. You notice an Aztec warrior eyeing the horses, maybe wondering if they're gods too. He's got no idea what's coming. You're caught in this moment. The city still vibrant, but teetering. The Spanish are plotting. The Aztecs are praying. And the altars keep demanding blood. You're starting to see how this collision will reshape history. But for now, you're stuck in the uneasy calm before the storm, the drums pounding like a countdown. You're standing in modern Mexico City, where Tenochtitlan's bones lie buried beneath asphalt and cathedrals. The Templo Mayor's ruins, unearthed in the 1970s, loom nearby, their weathered stones, whispering of blood and gods. You're reflecting on the Aztec legacy, how their sacrifices, once the heartbeat of an empire, still haunt Mexico's identity. The air's cooler now, tinged with street food and car exhaust, but the past feels close, like a shadow you can't shake. You're about to explore how these rituals echo through time, shaping a nation's soul. Mainstream history notes that Aztec sacrifice myths were suppressed by Spanish colonizers, who built churches over temples to erase the old gods. Yet, elements survived in Day of the Dead, where skulls and offerings nod to ancient rites. Here's a quirky fact. Some Mexican towns still perform mock sacrifices in festivals, using flowers or bread instead of blood, keeping the ritual's spirit alive. Historians still argue whether these traditions are direct Aztec holdovers or mestizo reinventions. Did the old beliefs sneak past the Spanish, or were they reshaped by Catholic influence? You wander the Zocalo, Mexico City's main square, built atop Moctezuma's palace. Tourists snap photos, unaware they're treading on sacred ground. You spot a street vendor selling sugar skulls, their bright icing a playful echo of the Zompantli's grim racks. The Aztecs' worldview, life and death entwined, gods ever hungry, lives in Mexico's art, its stories, even its humor. You're struck by how Huitzilopochtli's shadow lingers, not as a sun god, but as a cultural ghost, fueling pride and debate. Some Mexicans embrace this heritage, others flinch at its brutality. Let's crack a final joke. Imagine an Aztec priest time-traveling here, baffled, muttering, "Sugar skulls? Where's the obsidian?" But seriously, the Aztecs' influence is everywhere. Murals, museums, even wrestling masks styled like jaguar warriors. You're picturing a kid nearby, learning about Cortez in school, maybe wondering if her ancestors climbed the Templo Mayor. The legacy's not just history, it's alive, messy, and contested. You're starting to feel the weight of centuries, the way sacrifice shaped a people, then faded into myth. The city hums around you, modern but rooted in that bloody past. As you linger, the sun dips, casting long shadows over the ruins. It's time to wind down. The lights of Mexico City soften, their glow blurring into a gentle haze. You're sitting now, maybe on a bench near the Templo Mayor's ruins, the day's noise fading to a hum. The stones beside you hold stories of hearts offered, gods appeased, a world both cruel and radiant. You're safe here, the altars long silent, their hunger stilled by time. Let the drums in your mind slow, their rhythm easing into a whisper. Picture the stars above, the same ones the Aztecs watched, still turning in their endless dance. No bloods needed now, just rest. Close your eyes, let the city's pulse carry you to sleep, and dream of a world where the sun always rises.